And the stories about him, as you know, Murph, the stories about him knowing everybody's wife, kids' names, the people that worked in the he did. I walk into the booth and Harry and Whitey are doing the game, and Whitey, in the inimitable way, he says, well, here comes this Chris Wheeler. He's the one that gives us all this bad information all the time, and he's always wanted to do this, so what? We'll sit down. Murph, he got up, he can't make it, he took his headset up, he got off and he walked out of the booth.
I'm Gregg Murphy.
I'm Sam Stafford.
I'm Todd Zalecki.
This is Ruben Amaro.
I'm Jim Salisbury.
Hi, I'm Chris Wheeler. Welcome to Phillies Nation, presented by Valley Forge Tourism.
How do they do that?
In Philly, it's about more than the game. This is a legendary tailgate town. Our parking lots are filled with friends, food, and fun. So show up to the tailgate wearing first-rate threads from Shibe Vintage Sports. You can find them at 13th and Walnut in Center City, in downtown Wayne, and now open in Westchester. Shibe Vintage Sports, where there's a story in every stitch.
I think the best word to describe David is just a gentleman. He just made you feel good about yourself. He made everyone around him just happy, and he always made time for you. He knew everybody's name, that's for sure. Always knew everyone's name. And I don't know, just what he meant to the organization, to the Phillies, to the players, to everyone, to the fans, what he did for the ballpark and how he designed the ballpark in the fashion that he did. And just very instrumental and just really left a lasting legacy for the Phillies.
You know, David is one of those guys, I'm sure you've heard it before, but he never forgot a name. Once he met your family, or even my kids, who I've got, 3 kids, one born here, and the other ones were born in other states and other cities. He learned all their names right away, and when you come in, he just lights up a room, says hi to him, introduces himself. When you're someone who travels like baseball players do and so forth, that means so much to the players that they really do care. And David was that guy. You knew that he cared about you and actually how you felt, so he is sorely missed.
Welcome back to Phillies Nation, presented by Valley Forge Tourism. I'm Sam Stafford. As we just heard, David Montgomery was someone who was loved by all who knew him, and now it's very fitting that he's honored with a plaque at the ballpark that he helped create himself. Someone who knew Mr. Montgomery very well was Chris Wheeler, and he shares some memories with Murph.
All right, Sam, thank you very much. And yes, we are so excited and pleased to have Chris Wheeler with us here on the show, one of my favorite people. I know I tell you that all the time, but it's the truth. You know that it's true. And who better to speak to about the man that we celebrated down at the ballpark just a few weeks ago, and that was David Montgomery. I know you worked with David your entire career, your entire time with the Phillies organization. You both started the same year.
We did, Murph. We both started in '71. David, I think, showed up around January, February. Larry Shank hired me as his assistant in like April, May of '71. And then I was in the Army Reserve back in that time, and I had a 2-week summer camp coming up. So he said, look, why don't we start you on July 5th, right after the 4th of July. So we basically started at the same time. I started, I made 10,000. David made 8.
Wow.
And we used to kid about that. I said, well, you've done pretty well. He said, yeah, but you knew what you wanted to do. I had no idea.
Well, he seemed to figure it out. And,
Yeah.
Over the years, moving up from just being a ticket representative right up to the top as the president and CEO. Certainly hard work along the way, a great vision, all of that. But what made David special? Well, why don't you tell me what made David so special?
Number one thing to me was he was a man of his word. If David told you, look, we had some conflicts over the years because we were best friends, but I was a broadcaster, and sometimes he didn't like things that I was saying, so we would have a little problems once in a while. But he ever told you something, you could take it to the bank. And I don't know how many people in your life that you meet in a role like that you can say that about. He was so honorable. He was so kind. He had a volcanic temper that most people never saw, which was good. And the stories about him, as you know, Murph, the stories about him knowing everybody's wife, kids' names, the people that worked in the he did. He did. He knew everybody, and he thought that that was very. So I always thought of him as a man for all seasons. I don't know what David was not comfortable in doing, except he hated attention.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the one thing he didn't like, was people pointing towards him and giving him the accolades. And I spoke with Lynn Montgomery the other night when we were honoring David at the ballpark, and she said she's not sure how David would have appreciated the night that was dedicated right to him, but certainly so well deserved. Obviously Citizens Bank Park is such a great reminder of David. You guys worked together at Veterans Stadium, wonderful place of my childhood, going to ball games. But Citizens Bank Park was a big part of his vision, and Bill Giles and the gang. But there it sits, in memory of him in a lot of ways.
He was very proud of it. When they did that Monty's angle the other night, as you said, Murph, he didn't, he wouldn't have liked that, but then he would have thought, okay, because that was one of his visions about Connie Mack Stadium. Connie Mack Stadium had kind of funny angles. So you would see inside the park home runs, and David was always looking for things like triples or home runs, inside the park home runs, things that would make the game even more exciting. The one thing that he did not like, the place is small, and it was built basically because he wanted people close to the field. But once in a while, I stopped doing it for the most part, but every once in a while I'd talk about a Citizens Bank Park home run, one of those cheapies. And when we had the flower pots out there, they were even cheaper because they would drop in there. I mean, Vuk went out there, John Vuk went out there with first thing anything he ever did with golf. He got a rangefinder and he was out telling people what the real dimensions were in the alleys and all that. Oh, David was very upset. He was so proud of that place. But his feeling of it, Murph, would be fans first. I'll tell you one quick story about how we had to change something right away. David, he had the Phillies bullpen up top.
Yes, I remember.
And we were playing an exhibition series with the Cleveland Indians before the park formally opened. So our pitchers were up top and the visiting pitchers were down below. Oh, they came in and said, we can't have this. And David, what do you mean we can't have it? We want the fans to be, that's the problem. They're too close. They're yelling all this stuff down. So when we came back to start the regular season with the Cincinnati Reds, bullpens were flipped, and that's the way they are now. I have so many great memories of him, and I just, to this day, I miss him. He was one of my best friends.
Yeah, and not enough time, certainly, to talk about him. But
unfair. Yeah. Why did that happen to him? He wasn't like he was a tobacco user or anything, that he would get jaw cancer, and then it would metastasize into the cancers that finally took his life.
Yeah, it certainly is sad, but we can continue to talk about him and remember the good times for sure. Wheels, don't go anywhere, right? You'll stay with us for a little bit.
You got it,
We've got some other stories to tell with Chris Wheeler as well.
He made you feel like family. He's been part of my family and was part of my family for many, many years. So indebted to him and grateful for everything that he's done, not for the Philadelphia Phillies, but for me personally, for the Amaro family personally, and certainly for the organization of the Philadelphia Phillies. Philadelphia is a better place because of David Montgomery, and so is Major League Baseball.
It seemed like he knew everybody by first name that worked with the Phillies. The people who worked there, their families, their kids, and it was amazing. And coming up to see him communicate and make you feel special every time you were around him. And one of the other stories was playing golf. I tell you what, the time I played with him, he wasn't a better putter I ever seen than him. He made everything he looked at.
All right, time now to throw it over to Philadelphia's preeminent quizmaster. It's Johnny Goodtimes, and he's got some baseball trivia.
What are the names of the Phillies' 2 Class A affiliates?
BetPark's online casino and sportsbook. You love to play, you play to win, you bet BetPark.
When you open the BetParks app, you're in the zone. Winning is always a rush, but the money is in the moments. It's the anticipation of another face card, the thrill of an extra spin, and the pure joy of a jackpot. It's all your favorite games at your fingertips. Plus, get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. You play for fun, you love to win. You bet. BetParks.
Phillies Nation is your source for breaking news, original analysis, trade insights, and more. With credentialed access, our team of writers brings you first-hand accounts from your favorite players on today's team, minor league prospects of the future, and Phillies alumni from the past. Join our community and connect with hundreds of thousands of diehard fans through our social media, road trips, tailgate parties, and charity events. Don't miss a thing. Be sure to visit PhilliesNation.com every single day.
Welcome to This Week in Philly Baseball History, presented by Shibe Vintage Sports. This week in 1979, Richie Ashburn's #1 jersey was officially retired by the team. The former center fielder played 12 seasons in Philly and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1995. He matched his success on the field with a second career in the broadcast booth. Celebrate more Philly sports history with clothing from Shibe Vintage Sports, where there's a story in every stitch. Visit them at 13th and Walnut Streets or at shibesports.com.
What are the names of the Phillies' 2 Class A affiliates? They are the Jersey Shore Blue Claws and the Clearwater Threshers.
David Montgomery, one of the greatest guys ever to live. I mean, every time you go to the ballpark, he knew every member of your family. I mean, it was just absolutely amazing how he knew every player's wife, kids, everything. It was just totally amazing. And, you know, it wasn't a day went by that, you know, I didn't appreciate being a Philly and him being one of the top people in the Phillies organization.
Great owner. He's a guy, the only way I can describe him is he knew every employee that worked for the Phillies. There had to be 400 employees. And he not only knew the employee, but he knew his wife's name and he knew all their kids' names, which is incredible. I can't even remember the next person I just meet's name. So, yeah, he cared about his employees and most importantly, he cared about the fans. He wanted to bring a good product to the fans. He did an amazing job in charity work out in the community and just a guy that was really down to earth and awesome, and we miss him a lot.
Welcome back to Phillies Nation, presented by Valley Forge Tourism. Gregg Murphy here alongside my good friend and my colleague for such a long time, Chris Wheeler. Thanks for staying with us and telling some stories, because I want to talk a little bit about your career that started back in 1971 with the Philadelphia Phillies, but not as a broadcaster.
Right.
Many people don't know that you started in the marketing and the PR side of things. Tell us a little bit about how it morphed into a 37-year career on the air.
You know, you talk about circumstances that who knows? I was a broadcast journalism at my beloved Penn State. So I used to hang around with the broadcasters a lot. I used to travel and do the stats. Larry Schenk didn't want to go, so we used to have to do the stats on the road and the notes. And so I would hang around the announcers a lot in the booth. So they got to know me really well, and we got to be friends. So we win the first game of a doubleheader in Montreal. Playing a doubleheader that day, we win the National League. We win the pennant. So nobody wanted to play the second game. So they got all these guys out there playing, and I walk into the booth, and Harry and Whitey are doing the game, and Whitey, in the inimitable way, he says, well, here comes this Chris Wheeler. He's the one that gives us all this bad information all the time, and he's always wanted to do this, so what? We'll sit down. Murph, he got up, he can't make it, he took his headset up, he got off, and he walked out of the booth. And I'm sitting down with Harry, and I'm looking at Harry like, and he said, you know, started asking me stuff, and it worked out really well. I did what I did all those years. John McHale, the general manager, was in the box next to us with Bill Giles, and John McHale told me for years, he was my benefactor. He said, I said to Bill Giles, Bill, who's that broadcaster of yours? And Bill said, John, I want to apologize. He's one of our PR guys. I have no idea what the hell he's doing in there. And John said, Bill, he knows our players more than some of our people do, the stuff he's saying in there. And Bill, next year, he had to add somebody to put on radio when the games were televised to be with Andy Musser. And his mind went, he goes on every road trip. I'm not going to have to pay him anything more. Why don't we just let him do it? So in 77, I started doing it that way. It evolved into Prism and more television and all that after that. So the thing was, I always say, Murph, if we hadn't won the first game of the doubleheader, for the people who didn't like me, I may have never been in there.
It's such an amazing story. And for the people who didn't like you, who cares, right? Because you had such an amazing career. You know, I started following the Phillies as like a 7-year-old in 77. And I grew up listening to, it was Harry, Whitey, Wheels, and Musser.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what Phillies baseball was. It's why I fell in love with it. You know that. And then years later, I get a chance to sit next to you and be a part of it. But it was such an iconic career, and I mean that. Talk about a little bit about how it developed, over the years, because TV and radio became one. It was more if you're jumping from back and forth, but you really honed your craft calling Phillies baseball.
I did, and when you came around and started being around us too back in those days, I knew you, and I knew what a great fan you were, because you could tell when you were on the air you loved the sport and all that. Yeah, television and radio, as you well know, are very different. On radio, you really have to be focused. I can't imagine being an analyst on radio now with a clock. It has to be so much more difficult. But you have to stay out of the way of the play-by-play guy. On television, you can tell stories. Ball's fouled off. You can continue your story. And I did both on television. I did a lot of play-by-play, and I did the analyst role. So you really had to understand the medium that you were dealing with. On radio, you are people's eyes. You do a lot of radio, and you have to say, here's the stretch, here's the pitch, things like that. You don't say that on television. Tim McCarver used to tell me all the time, and he was so right, don't ever rip ability. I thought that was a great line.
That is a great way of thinking about it.
And I never did anyway, but after Timmy had said that, I thought that's a great way to put it and to explain to people that are going to do it, we do. You can be critical, but don't rip ability, because you can't do that.
You'll be remembered for so many things. but certainly in Philadelphia, the 2008 season was magical. Harry's call of the final out, you sitting next to him, right where you should be. And I was always struck by your reaction, because you loved the team, so it was euphoric, but the silence that went along with it, and there was a reason for that.
Yeah, in 1980, Murph, when we won and Tug got that final out, we weren't on the air. No Phillies broadcaster was on the air. So Harry did a wonderful job of recreating it on a record. So it hit me that night when we were sitting there, and they had the runner at second base, and I'm thinking to myself, somehow, if this happens, shut up. Don't make a sound. This guy deserves this moment right now. He's one of the greatest of all time. Beloved in Philadelphia, beloved around the country for all the stuff he had done. So I had no idea I did that. We were down in the tents afterwards, you remember, in the party afterwards, and I remember looking up, and it was replaying about an hour or two later, and I went, oh, jeez.
No.
I thought, now I'm going to have to deal with these jackasses on WIP getting on me about it. And it was just the opposite, because when we were going down Broad Street the next day, Murph, the neatest thing was I had all these kids, young kids, were coming up near the float, and they were going.
That's great.
And I thought,
doing the wheels.
I thought it was all right. I thought it was all right. So,
all right,
and now it's become kind of iconic, I think.
Yeah. No. It's so much of what you guys did over the years is iconic, and to get a chance to talk with you, as I often do, is always so much fun.
Well, this is fun, but we've been friends for a long time, and I'm so happy that, that I'm out of the business now, and I'm so happy that it's worked out for you, because you're a good man and you're good at what you're doing.
Well, thank you very much. Harry, Whitey, Wheels, and Mustard. There it was, right there. Thanks so much.
My pleasure, Murph.
And now, another crazy Philly sports story that you've never heard. What if I told you there was a pro basketball team in Philly that led to the downfall of one of the city's biggest drug dealers, a mainline dentist who moonlighted as a cocaine kingpin? The dentist's name was Larry Lavin, and he started dealing pot while attending Penn in the 1970s. His dealing soon extended to cocaine, and he needed to find a way to launder his millions. So, he purchased the Philadelphia Arena at 45th and Market, bought a pro basketball team called the Lancaster Red Roses, and changed their name to the Philadelphia Kings. He hired former 76ers legend Hal Greer to serve as coach and GM. Former NBA star Cazzie Russell led the team in scoring, and Kobe Bryant's uncle Chubby Cox also starred on the team. But attendance was abysmal, and the Kings averaged a mere 250 fans per game. So, at the end of the season, the team was sold and moved back to Lancaster. An arsonist hired by Lavin's business manager burned down the arena soon after. That arson brought unwanted attention on Lavin, and the FBI was soon on his trail. He would be arrested a couple of years later and end up serving 19 years in prison.
Parks Casino. This is how you win. It's summer at Parks Casino, and the weather isn't the only thing that's hot. Slots are hot, table games are hot, sportsbook is hot, live entertainment and restaurants are sizzling hot. And check out the X Club. Join and instantly get $20 free slot play. Plus, we'll match your tiered card from another casino. It's time for some hot summer action at the #1 casino in Pennsylvania. And now 100% smoke-free. Parks Casino, this is how you win.
From Octavius Cotto to Connie Mack to Edith Houghton, it's always been about more than baseball in Philadelphia. That's why, in the spirit of those pioneers, Shibe Vintage Sports is a proud supporter of the Anderson Monarchs youth baseball program in South Philly. We believe that it's important to honor the past and also invest in the future. You too can support youth baseball in Philly.
For every Philadelphia Stars shirt sold, a portion will be donated to the Anderson Monarchs.
Visit shibesports.com.
Welcome back to Phillies Nation, presented by Valley Forge Tourism. We all know that a trip to the ballpark is a great family experience, but there's also a lot of family fun to be found in Montgomery County. And Rachel Riley from Valley Forge Tourism shows us a place that has a little something for everyone.
Of course, we all know how much family fun there is to be had at Citizens Bank Park, but did you also know, for Phillies fans especially, there's tons of family fun to be had out in Montgomery County, PA at Arnold's Entertainment Center in Oaks. We're here with Nick Mitchell, sales and marketing representative, in the spot that there's no better place to start in Arnold's than the arcade, so tell us about it.
Listen, you're 100% right. Our arcade is just absolutely massive. We've got over 100 plus games in here, something for someone of every age. We've got everything from classics like skee-ball to a whole bunch of new stuff like this massive Halo game that everyone loves here. So much in our arcade, and it's just massive in here.
So one of the many family-friendly things to do here at Arnold's is bowling, of course, but it's for kids and for adults. So tell us about the couple different options that you offer.
So with bowling here, we have our traditional bowling, which is in these really cool like retro style booths that we have over there. Full bar. We've actually got a full cafe with food, stuff like pizza, all the casual fare there. Then on top of it, we have our very special VIP bowling. It's the most comfortable bowling experience that you really can get anywhere, and there's nothing really quite like it. We have go-karts for everyone here. These are our Sodi Pro carts, and then we have our electric Arnold's carts. All indoors, all electric.
All right, buckle up, Nick, I'm ready to go. All right, so we've grabbed something to eat, we did bowling, we did go-karts, so many physical activities here, and now we are suiting up for laser tag. This gun is heavy.
Yeah, and what better way to burn those calories off than with our laser tag options that we have here at Arnold's. We've got laser tag for both adults and for kids.
It's not exactly a baseball bat, obviously, although this is a little bit more my speed. This place is a hole-in-one.
I mean, you can't go wrong with Arnold's with our blacklight mini golf. It's really a hit.
So many different ride options here. This was actually my son's first carousel ride.
It's nothing but old school fun here.
All right, as if we haven't seen enough already, what else you got, Nick?
Well, we got a lot of high intensity fun, like our ropes course and our rock wall over there.
And for the ultimate in family fun, you can get the Oaks Adventure Pass, which grants you all-inclusive here at Arnold's, a pass to the American Treasure Tour, a movie ticket, and popcorn. Super fun family deal here in Montgomery County, PA. For Valley Forge Tourism and Convention Board, I'm Rachel Riley. Hey Nick, I think I'm gonna need a bigger bucket of popcorn.
Thanks, Rachel. That sounds like a ton of fun. Now, we all know about that corner that pops out in center field, and it was put there by design. Our Phillies Show guys, Todd, Ruben, and Jim, talk about what is now known as Monty's angle.
David Montgomery was honored, placed on the Wall of Fame, and they named the angled wall in left centered field, which it was his idea because he wanted to create action, and it certainly did. They named it Monty's angle. So you guys have any thoughts on just naming that wall after David and just David getting on the Wall of Fame? I mean, Jim and I, we talked about it a lot on Friday. It's a cool weekend.
I mean, first of all, Monty obviously was his nickname, and for them to honor him in that way, pretty darn special. I mean, he was a special man, and I think everybody knows what he meant to me as a person and as a mentor and a leader. I mean, he basically, in a lot of ways, hired me twice. Once with Ed Wade when I became the assistant GM, but again, and I think they sort of collaborated on that. And then again, when Pat Gillick decided to retire, I became the GM. And David was just a great mentor, a great person, and can't say enough positive things about what he meant to the organization, what he meant to Philadelphia, and what he meant to a lot of people around baseball, because MLB is a better place because of David Montgomery. It's as simple as that. I think Rob Manfred would say the same thing, that in a lot of ways, David's influence permeated throughout the game.
It was a fun weekend seeing all those guys. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
No, I just thought it was very cool to see them name that part of the stadium Monty's Angle, because he was so impactful in designing that area of the stadium, spearheading the building of the stadium, which was a complete game changer for this franchise, and still is. You look at the impact the fans have on playoff games, games 6 and 7 last year notwithstanding. People still love coming to that place, love making a lot of noise, and they love when they have a winning product.
For more Phillies analysis and interviews, subscribe to The Phillies Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever else you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Phillies Nation, presented by Valley Forge Tourism. That's it for this week's show. Thanks to Chris Wheeler and other former Phils for sharing their memories of David Montgomery. Now, next week, we'll be in the Phillies radio broadcast booth, so that'll be a ton of fun. Make sure to join us. For Gregg Murphy, I'm Sam Stafford, and we'll see you next week.